Celebrate on.
Yeah, but that's just the FIA in general, right? They like to keep things spicy.
Random.
I mean, honestly, yeah, I'm just so random, right? So here's the thing. Compare this to when Max won last year, right? With like the really awkward red velvet chair from Wayfair.
Yeah.
And that he like jumps into his dudes, like the mechanics.
In a race that didn't even go full length.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, Max has yet to win a world championship like without there being some element of weirdness or strangeness about it.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe the weird thing this season has just been like Helmut Marko's just like awful comments about his teammate, because like we haven't seen
into madness.
Yeah, we haven't seen this kind of thing from him before. Like he's fully embraced like the villain role this season. So,
well, now he's quiet. He's not saying anything.
Well, we'll talk about that. Oh, hello there, listener. We didn't notice you there.
Oh,
welcome to F1 Off.
Oh snap! Who's this?
Is it Iddris? Oh, shit.
Oh, I thought I was talking to myself again.
By the way, you held it down, bro. Like those episodes are good. I like the very light like Lo-Fi Girl music. I'm a mega fan of Lo-Fi Girl. Which by the way, let me just make a plug for Lo-Fi Girl's like channel right now. The Halloween theme, very spooky.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, so would highly recommend.
Yeah, so I honestly, I mean, it was just a spur of the idea because I thought like if I'm going to talk by myself, I don't like hearing people just talk solo. I like having something going on. Even when you listen to like a true crime podcast, usually spooky music in the background.
I feel you.
And so I thought I gotta have something. And the good thing about Lo-Fi Girl, and this is wonderful, the people who do that, they basically on their website they're just like, hey, like, use us on your live stream. Like, go ahead, just make sure you tag us, and we're cool with it. And I'm like, oh, perfect.
Like open source, bro.
Yeah. So I just had it out there, and it was wonderful. Shout out to Lo-Fi Girl for the assist.
Ooh, it would be cool if we do a collab with Lo-Fi Girl, like merch. That'd be kind of cool.
Oh, that would be cool. Just have her like in a I think they have like people have done variations of her in like a race suit. But yeah, no, 100%. That would be awesome. I would definitely rock. I mean, it'd be cool if we were sponsored by Lo-Fi Girl. That would be great. That would be a great sponsor.
Yeah,
I'm into it. Need to make a car that's Lo-Fi Girl sponsored. Maybe I'll do that. It's a Photoshop at some point.
Yeah. So, all right, here's the official intro, guys. Welcome to F1 Air Off, your audio pit stop for F1 news, interviews, and race reviews. I'm your host, Iddris.
And I'm Gabe, and thank you if you've listened to this far. Waited this long and listened this far.
I'm back, baby.
Yeah,
do you think Gabe dumped me, or do you think I dumped him? Huh? You think that's how his relationship works? No, I just needed some time away.
You should have just jumped on as soon as we hit curves and been like, "Hey, idiots!"
like in Parks and Rec. What's the radio host?
Crazy Ira and the douche.
Crazy Ira and the douche.
Douche Nation.
Just like fart soundboards. Oh man, those are the worst kind of radio shows. But I loved them in high school because it was just on, right? Like
it was the thing.
If you're Gen Z, what a time to be alive, where you can just pull up Apple Music or Spotify or whatever, and you're like, I'm gonna listen to this insert podcast name or album name here, and you don't have to deal with like just the stuff that's on the radio and just suffer, right?
I still think it's fascinating that every time a Gen Zer discovers something that has like existed for a long time, it's not like some quiet sort of introduction. They're just like, check out this, like you have that voice like, check out this new thing that I just discovered. And it's just like, yeah, like I knew Killer Clowns from Outer Space existed for a long time. Which, by the way, is the reason why I bring that up is I went into a spirit. Okay, maybe this is another Midwestern thing, but I, for the longest time, thought it was Spirit of Halloween. And
you mean the Halloween store?
Yeah, it's just called Spirit Halloween.
I think I knew that one.
I didn't. I would be calling it Spirit of Halloween this entire time because that's what I thought. It's like it's the spirit of Halloween. You buy, you know.
I can see why you think that. Yeah.
You know. I mean, I swear there was an of in there. But anyway, I got a bunch of ridicule for that. But anyway, I couldn't help but notice when I went in there that they are inundated with Killer Clowns from Outer Space merch. And I'm shocked because like I was like, this is a terrible B movie that I thought only me and like 3 other people on this planet remembered. But now apparently it's like this huge thing. They got t-shirts and costumes and pins and patches and, you know, Funko Pops. It's the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, cool. I wanted to buy a t-shirt, but they were all gone. So,
well, trends are cyclical though, you know? So it's at a certain point, everything that's super trendy right now, 20 years from now, it'll be, is it 20? 30 years. 20 to 30 years from now, it'll be trendy, right? So the 80s has kind of had its thing, right? With like Stranger Things kind of like being the peak of that. So
I think we're moving into the 90s again. Maybe we're waiting for Backstreet Back to be back.
I mean, I think NSYNC is about to drop a new album, right? Did you watch your episode of Hot Ones? All right, this is an aside, guys. Like, I don't know if it's going to stay in the episode or not, but their episode of Hot Ones was excellent. And NSYNC, I mean, they still got it, man. Like, anytime I hear them talk, I'm just like, oh man, just break out a melody, please.
Well, yeah, I mean, if NSYNC's coming back with an album, that's pretty big. So maybe that'll usher in a 90s reinsurgence.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're doing a tour. The only other 90s band that is actually doing stuff actively, I think, is New Kids on the Block. Is that the name? Yeah, like New Kids on the Block is a bit too early for us. Like I'm a 91 kid, right? So anything like late 80s to early 90s as far as like pop music, like specifically boy bands, I don't know. I'm not really on the up and up with that, but yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, my sister listened to NSYNC. That was her. You know, she got the posters and everything. So like I remember all of that. But yeah, New Kids on the Block was just a little bit too early. But it was funny is that before there was even New Kids on the Block, there was Boyz II Men. So like it's weird how. No, I think they were at the same time. I think they're around the same time. Yeah, I think like late 80s, early 90s, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Because
I was under the impression that Boyz II Men crawled so the rest of them could run and walk. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure, definitely. Yeah. Like if we're talking about like the musical excellence of one group overall, like I mean. It's gonna be Boyz II Men.
Ooh, yeah, I love it. Well, anyway, Iddris, how I don't without going into any detail that you don't feel like doing. How was your trip? What was it like?
It was excellent. So for the people, went to the motherland. went to Ghana, and it was really nice to be overseas. Just disconnect from things over here for a good while. It was excellent. Like. Finally got the chance to do like lots of touristy things that I typically don't get to do, right? So went to like tons of beaches and resorts and museums and all that kind of fun stuff, that enriching cultural type of stuff, right? Just excellent. Would recommend. This is probably, I would say actually August, September is probably the time of year to go, because the thing with Ghana now is that like the secret's out, right? So people like to go there now, and ticket prices to go there are just like insane, astronomical. I'm talking like I think $1,700 a ticket now, round trip, if you want to go. Like that's during like peak. That's during like the winter holiday season, right? So your November, December, January, like forget it. Like that's probably like the worst time of the year to go now. Even though if you're trying to go out there and like party, turn up, then that's the time of the year to go. But if you're going to just be kind of low key, chill, go a little earlier in the year. Also, I would highly recommend setting alerts on Google Flights. Actually super effective. Skyscanner is also good too. Skyscanner, sponsor us.
Could you imagine if a trip to Cleveland was $1,700? I mean, how
that better include bro, okay, so this is why it would cost $1,700 going to Cleveland, right?
Okay.
You can eat at Slyman's 24/7, right? You can go to Gene's Place 24/7. You can go to Common Grounds 24/7. And you're not paying anything, right? And then on top of that, Common Grounds is a coffee shop out there. I'm sure there's a Common Grounds in every single city in the nation.
Oh, there's definitely one in Portland.
Like it's just such a good name. It's there, right? On top of that, you will be living in Cleveland for 6 months. like
so this is like This is like a Wheel of Fortune-esque like giveaway trip. It's like,
yes.
Well,
why would I spend $1,700 to go to Cleveland? I love it. It's our hometown. But
tell him what he's won. Well, Bob, he's won a round trip to Cleveland, Ohio.
Their face just
Dine in the fanciest restaurants that Cleveland has to offer.
The McDonald's on East 55th Street in Carnegie. Jade Dragon.
Go to the Science Museum, where nothing has been fixed since '93. Check out the wonderful sights and smells of the humid Lake Erie. $1,700.
The Rock Hall, the museum that for some reason never tries to advance past the 1980s, not realizing that music changes form.
Look at all the bizarre wax buffs of these legendary rock stars. Yeah, oh my God.
And introducing your Cleveland Browns. It's always bothered me that they're, and whatever that.
Yeah, we don't want to alienate people by talking about Cleveland sports. So
yeah,
I'm going to avoid that topic specifically. Well, Iddris, I'm glad you're back in town.
Thank you. It's nice to be back.
Yeah. Unfortunately, both of us, as I'm sure people can hear, probably more for me than you, we're both kind of recovering from some sort of ailment of some kind. So
I'm recovering from turning up.
Yeah, recovering from yeah. My sinuses were partying a little too much. They just got a little too lit. So, but we have a lot to catch up on.
So much. I mean, three races, right?
Three races that we need to catch up on, and also just a tremendous amount of drama.
So much,
either from the races or on the outside of it. So, yeah. Iddris, I'm going to give you the honors. What do you want to dive into first? What's our first topic? What should we catch up on?
I think we got to talk about Singapore first off, and just how Carlos Sainz
Okay.
He held it down. He held it down during that race. That was so fun to watch. And, of course, this happened right on the heels of Red Bull getting this like crazy record, right, of the 10 race wins in a row. Yeah. And then they just completely dropped the ball, right? They're just, oh, shit, we forgot how to do it, right?
Yeah.
And I, honestly, but this is excellent, right? Because this is what happens, right? Like, you can only maintain excellence for so long without like some slight mistake happening, right? That just completely messes it up, right?
Yeah.
Look at Mercedes, right? Mercedes was able to get 8 constructors in a row, but they can only get 7 driver championships in a row, right?
Right.
And that comes down to just some minor things here and there, right? I think arguably you could say 2021 when Lewis wasn't able to win his 8th, when Max won his 1st. A lot of that's like strategy, right? It's just kind of like, what are we doing, guys? We got to make sure we kind of, as people in the professional world like to say, dot your I's and cross your T's, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, Rebel really stumbled. They really tripped, right? And it's crazy to me because I don't understand. It's so weird because how did this happen? You know what I mean? Because it's like, how many races in similar tracks in similar or more difficult conditions that they dominated it. And so it's so wild to me that they show up in Singapore and all of a sudden they're like,
right.
Like it was so weird to see that happen.
It was.
And also part of me though, as incredible as it would be for Max to continue his, consecutive win streak, I'm kind of glad that it got broken up.
Yeah,
because it
absolutely.
just leaves the opportunity open for somebody else to do that, or for Max to make another attempt. I think people felt a little bit of that with the Lewis Hamilton era of dominance, where they're just like, okay, he got to 7, and it's just like, people. I mean, obviously, I still want to see him win an 8th, but I do think that it was probably good for the sport and good for him as a driver that he kind of has that broken up period, because you think of it too, his first world championship was 2008.
Yeah.
And then he waited literally, what was it, 6 years?
2014 was the next, was the second.
Until he get his second championship. Yeah. So there was a huge period of time where he was winning some races here and there.
Right.
But he was more or less not, not winning anything.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, boom, here comes the success again.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't, you never know. Like Max could easily have that period. Like
Right.
Max could have
Yeah.
next year. He just doesn't. They fall on their face. They don't recover. Max, maybe he moves to another team, and then that team starts to pick up momentum again, and he wins, 4 and 5 and 6. You never know. But I just think that it's I think that people are starting to panic a little bit. I also think that people are blowing things a little more out of proportion than they need to. There's this weird feeling that like everybody has this sort of fatalism when it comes to talking about Formula One and not being like, being boring or Max winning. Like, oh, well, it's over. It's done with. It's
What's
like,
the point of watching the race? Yet they're still watching the race, right?
It's like, come on, it's one season that we're going through. Like this sport has been around since 1950. Like it's had ups and downs. There was periods in the 70s where nothing really interesting was happening. So like, we'll get through it. And I think that, I'm not trying to gatekeep in any way, but I mean, for me, it's just like, if you really love the sport and you really want to watch it, you're just going to keep watching it. I mean, I'm going to keep watching it. I'm not going to stop, but maybe there'll be some people who, got the hype from, Drive to Survive. And now that they're watching the sport, they're like, this is not as interesting as I thought of. And they just wait for the of Drive to Survive to come out. Who knows? But I think the sport's going to survive. It'll do fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I mean, to be honest though, this is any sport, right? Like, I'm in the 90s, right? If we're talking about basketball, just to switch gears here, like the Michael Jordan Bulls just like ran through the league, right? Jordan won 6 championships in the 90s, right? I think it was 91, 92, 93. He was gone for 94, 95, and that's when Hakeem Olajuwon Rockets won. And then 96, 97, 98 are the 3 that he won. Like he did 2 3-peats. That's insane, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure people were complaining about the same thing. They're saying that, oh, NBA is so boring. But on the flip side, if you think about it, it's also that this is really exciting that someone is able to maintain this level of consistency and get all these crazy accolades at the same time, right? And then and then after the fact, after that team gets blown up or the person retires, that's when you miss it. Like, oh, it was so great because they were just like lighting it up. That person was unlike any other athlete we've ever seen. It's the same thing here, right? It's any sport. So it's just about what you personally find interesting about it, right? So, and that's okay too for people to come and go. Like that's, people, you can be transient with sports, right? And how you engage with it. And that's okay too.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I'm trying to do that with IndyCar. And I'm also, curious to start watching like the World Endurance Championship too. Like, is that looking really interesting? But also on the subject of Red Bull and their constructors' success, did you get a chance to listen to the Adrian Newey interview with Beyond the Grid?
No, I have not had time. Like it's been really packed. I know. I have it downloaded. I have it queued up, and I'm just waiting for like an hour and a half where I can sit down because I listen to Beyond the Grid like religiously, but that's the one episode that I just haven't had a chance to sit down and listen to.
It is so good. And it makes you appreciate that like this championship, this constructor success, this is not just Max and Christian Horner.
Absolutely.
Like
exactly.
they have Adrian Newey. Like the man has like 7 different cars that have won multiple world championships. Like the guy knows what he's doing. And he's in with my favorite thing is that he apparently still sketches things out on pen and paper.
That's the way to do it.
Like
of course.
no other F1 engine, they all use CAD or like, some online design thing. And he says, he's like, well, I tried it and I kind of know how to do it, but I just, I like sketching things out on paper. And I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
it's wonderful. He's also just such a nice guy. So
yeah, he seems like a really nice guy from the interviews that I've seen of him. But yeah, it is interesting, right? That's his approach, his philosophy. But I think in general, like a very simple approach to execution is often what works best, right? So instead of hopping on board with these crazy tools, like whether it's CAD or you're trying to use some kind of VR, AR type of like toolkit to like design something, for him it's about first principles and fundamentals. So he's just sitting down and is like, well, this is what I think would happen, right? And then he can give it to the engineers who are then going to make the CAD model of it, right? And see if it works, checks out, you know what I mean? But it's really important to just have that. I think from what you're saying, what we can pull out of this is that it's really important to just have the basics and fundamentals down, because that's what's going to just help you just propel, right? And like, if you think about the design of this year's Red Bull car, when you look at it compared to other cars, it looks way more simple, right? Yeah. And often in the engineering and design world, simplicity is the best approach, and that's what you want, but it can often be the one that's like the most complex and complicated to actually achieve, right?
Right.
So hats off to them for making that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And finding that success.
Yeah, it's a good effort from the whole team. Honestly, well deserved. Yeah, I think they did. They just did such a bang up job, and everybody's been trying to catch up. Which, by the way, who would have expected that McLaren would be the team that would be catching up?
Oh, it's been, and dude, and not just McLaren, like Oscar Piastri is just, dude, like lightning in a bottle, man.
Rookie of the year,
man. I don't really have words for like the level of performance he is showcasing right now. He is racing like he's done this so many times, right? Mm-hmm. And he has so much to be proud of as far as his rookie season is concerned, right? Like he seems to be like cool as a cucumber. Honestly, I get Max Verstappen vibes from him, like in the sense of like how Max was racing like his first few years when he joined F1, right? Like granted, like I think Max was being a little dodgy with some of his overtake attempts, all that kind of stuff, right? He had his issues, but he's kind of refined it, right? But just that willingness to just like, push and like eke every bit of performance out of the car. Man, it's been so fun watching him and Lando together, like just really like taking that car by the scruff of its neck and like throwing it around, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I think the big difference between him and Max, at least as a rookies, was Max sort of had that sort of like wonderkind sort of like anticipation built in.
Sure.
There was so
with
much
him being
hype.
the youngest.
Yeah, there was so much hype with this idea of this 17-year-old kid showing up and like entering Formula One.
Sure.
But Oscar sort of started off with kind of a shaky beginning with the weird contract thing. So there's all like was it worth it? What? Mm-hmm. And then the beginning of the season, it wasn't really anything, and it was like, what's McLaren? It's just this.
Yeah.
This track, like this car, just looks so poor. And I remember at the time, both of us were just like, "Oh, like they're not going to do anything this year. Like they're going to be terrible."
Because their preseason testing was abysmal.
It was atrocious.
God!
Yeah.
What was that?
I know, but hey, it goes to show you, man. Like this sport is not. It's not governed by any sort of laws of logic. Like it will surprise you if you let it. So yeah, good on McLaren. Good job. And also I must say that the black livery that they are racing in, way better. Way better. Yeah. I honestly thought they should have just stuck with the Marlboro's like kind of esque one from the Monaco race. I thought that was the best they've looked this season.
Yeah.
But I'll take this like mostly black McLaren with a splash of papaya. Way better than it was.
Yeah. Dude, and also too, I think they got their sponsor game like on lock now, as far as like better control. Because I remember during our livery review, we were talking about how it was just like techno music was like sponsor. Yeah. That was the vibe I got from it, right?
Yeah. It looked like a side of a building in Cyberpunk that was just like painted with every possible like ad that they could fit into it. It's like they even had those ads. Well, they even had those like panels on the top that like had like changing ads on it, and I'm like, okay, why? Like, doesn't that weigh a lot? Like, Yeah. But anyway, good on McLaren. Good for them. I'm really excited. I hope they carry this momentum forward.
Yeah.
Because they've got two great drivers, and I think they have all the potential in the world. And I do want to see McLaren back on top and winning some stuff. It's only a matter of time. Do you think they're going to get a win before the end of the season?
That is the only thing that remains to be seen. If we get another Red Bull fumble like we did in Singapore, I think we could. And I think it'd be McLaren for sure over anyone else. I can tell you it wouldn't be Aston Martin. And we'll get into that.
Watch, it's Lance Stroll wins his first win in like the last race of the season. You'll be like, screw you, Lance.
But no, honestly, I would say that that would be something he really needs for him to help him make a decision about his future.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about that. But I want to finish up the McLaren thought.
Yeah.
If Red Bull fumbles the bag again, like they did in Singapore, I think it'd be McLaren for sure. And I actually think it might be Oscar who'd get the win over Lando.
Maybe.
Like,
it's possible.
I just feel, I don't know. I'm not trying to compare the two, not to compare the two and saying that Lando is a worse driver than Oscar or anything. No, I think it's just more like the momentum that we've been seeing Oscar show over the last few races is really impressive. Yeah. But then on the flip side too, the consistency that Lando has demonstrated, I think eventually will convert into that first win. So it could go both ways. But yeah, I think for sure McLaren over any other team on the grid right now.
Yeah, no, I feel that he does have a lot of I think there's a je ne sais quoi that you get when you're a rookie. Yeah. There's the momentum, there's energy that you have, and Norris has got a lot of drive, and I know that he's going to get some wins. It's just going to happen. But Oscar does have that sort of
the X factor.
tense racehorse sort of energy. Like he's just ready to go, ready to get it done. So I'm with you on that. I do hope that Oscar gets a win. I would love to see him happen this season, and I will say that if anything, I get a feeling, I don't know if you noticed, so at the Qatar Grand Prix during qualifying, I think it was for Q3, Max just ran a lap and then just pulled in and just started getting out of the car. And it just so happened to be the pole lap that nobody could beat. Yeah. But I think he was just whatever, I had the championship, the team's got the constructors, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm just going to put in whatever lap and then just let things happen.
Yeah.
And part of me wonders is if he's going to do that again and keep doing that, and then somebody's just going to take advantage of the track evolving and knock him off the podium, and then getting caught out in the race. I mean, who knows?
Sure, but if that happened, the Red Bull would be at worst 5th position, right? And he would carve his way back up, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Provided he wants to race in the mid pack, which he said I don't like racing people, so I'd rather just be up front.
That's a good Max.
It's better with my
that's not bad.
My voice like it is. Yeah, so I just my dad he likes to leave me at the gas stations, and so I race. And
that's such a sad video. Oh my god.
He was disappointed, but I got my 3rd title, and it doesn't matter.
Dude, that's really good. That's not bad.
Did you hear what that Joss Verstappen kind of pulled the crappy stepdad move where he was just oh, it's the way he won it this time that I'm super proud of, and just kind of made all these kind of comments where it's just Yas, this isn't about you. This is about Max. He won it, and just let him have this moment. Yeah. Don't act like you're the one that
he doesn't
basking in the glory.
Yeah, he doesn't really need to be in the interviews there. Other than just saying, I'm so proud of him, I don't know. It is endearing to hear from athletes' parents when they win, it's some major accolade or achieve something, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Yas is, I don't know. I just feel really sad whenever I think about those, all the number of interviews that Max has sat down in and just talked about the awful childhood trauma that he has, right? And he just said it. He says it so matter of fact. It's dude, that's not normal.
Right?
That's not a normal thing that should happen in a loving. And I don't, I'm not here to cast stones and judge anyone's familiar relationship, but that just sounds awful.
Yeah,
to be treated that way.
I mean, I think that if it's all that you don't really have that much else perspective. So for you, it is normal.
Yeah.
But I always love how it's the a lot of the world championships that you hear from, with a few exceptions, they don't all come from a tremendous amount of wealth that put them in a high place. They kind of had to really work for that title. And I think for Max was not, he was not from a poor household. I mean,
sure.
Jos Verstappen was an F1 driver, so he had some money, and he had some opportunity. But he did have to work for what he achieved. Unlike some, I think it's tough to say. some people feel like they take advantage of it more, but
Mm,
then others might seem like even though they have all the money and all the opportunity in the world, they just don't have the drive and talent. And
mm,
it's a weird mix of like, what's the path? It's not all one path. It can be different
hmm.
ones, but ultimately you have to have the drive in order to make it
Yeah.
happen. So at least Max has that.
So speaking of father son duo in Formula One, wanted to switch over to talk about the Strolls.
Let's take a stroll
Yeah.
and talk about the strolls. Yes.
So, I mean, we'll get to his really weird interview that he had in Qatar, but like,
Mhm.
I just want to kind of contrast like the things you see and hear about like the relationship between Max and his father versus like Lance and his father, right? And like, I think it. I don't know. It seems from the outside that like the Strolls have like a nice relationship, right? Like
Uh-huh.
Lawrence seems to really care about his son, right? Like the fact that there was an F1 team purchased for him and that he has a seat, you know,
Uh-huh.
because his daddy's like, yeah, we wanna help you achieve your dream of like getting an F1 championship,
Mhm.
let alone just racing in Formula One.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That's all great. But I really do wonder, based on performance that we've been seeing from Lance, how long is that okay? For his continued performance,
Mhm.
specifically him exiting Q1 every single time. And I remember when I watched Singapore, because I think the race order was Singapore, Japan, Qatar, right?
Yep.
And Singapore, he's out at Q1. I was like, oh man, that sucks, right? That's weird. Japan, it happens again. I was like, ooh, hmm. And then when it happened in Qatar, I was just like, oh no,
Mhm.
this guy is cooked. Like mentally, he must be fried, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I need some water.
Drink it. Peppa Pig cup.
Sponsor, sponsor,
Sponsor.
sponsor. um, and that kind of leads me to that interview he gave, and I was like bewildered. I've never seen an interview like that. Like you only see that kind of stuff in NBA, where
Mm.
like a really good one I can think of is like Russell Westbrook being asked after a game where they were like, "Did you guys lose the game or did the other team win the game?" And then he just looked at the reporter and he was like, "What the fuck you talking about, man?" Just
Yeah. 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 Well, to be fair, that was a really stupid question.
sure.
That was a
I
little too
kind of
vague.
sure. I kind of get what the reporter's going for, but like, yeah, like the reaction was amazing, and I felt similarly in like watching Lance give this interview where he's just like, just drive, like,
Well,
man, he's cooked. He's
yeah.
mentally cooked right now.
Well, and he was also physically cooked.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so here's the thing: Kimi Räikkönen is famous for giving very short, curt, like one word answers to
Yeah.
questions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the same time, like usually when he would do those interviews, he was not like under pressure. He wasn't like angry or mad all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just who he was. It was his personality.
Yeah.
So like you sort of got it. Like Kimi Räikkönen, it's just what he is. Like
Yeah.
he's the Iceman. He's a
Mm-hmm.
man of a few words. He just does the thing and whatever. Um, but we know Lance to be somebody who talks. Like he can hold a conversation. Like
Mm-hmm.
he might be a little weird and just be like, I can't look forward to those waffles. Like, you know what I mean? Like he might say strange stuff, but he's
Sure.
also a bit of
Yeah.
a odd guy. Um, but this was just. I mean, I know it's tough. It's like I do everything that I can. I've been trying to do everything that I can to put myself in Lance's shoes, try and think from his perspective. And it's like, yes, like these interview obligations can be really annoying,
Mm-hmm.
really frustrating. They're kind of thrust upon you, especially after you're having like a really tough day, really tough session.
Mm.
You want to just go to, just get out of there, go to bed, do whatever, just recover and just start anew the next day. So I understand that. I also understand that Qatar was super hot,
Yeah, yeah.
super warm,
Physically demanding.
physically demanding.
Yeah.
Everybody's having a hard time. Everyone, like, people are vomiting, passing out, whatever. Like all of that stuff, or like the track limit violations are just being handed out like candy, like they were in Austria.
Mm-hmm.
But considering all of that, there is still how many other competitors on that field? Like 22, 21 other or 19 other
Yeah,
drivers or
19.
something like that, right? You didn't see the rest of those guys reacting like that when they could have, because all of their circumstances were the same. They had a tough weekend. They got knocked out in Q3. It
Mm.
was really hot. And they didn't succumb to that kind of pressure. Also, like Lance Stroll having that incident in the garage where he like chucked his steering wheel at
Yeah.
his engineers,
Yeah.
gets out, he like smacks the hand away from his, trainer, and his trainer comes around the corner, and then he shoves his trainer up against the wall, and like just like physically
Yeah.
gets violent, and then gets on and does these interviews where he's like saying profanity, being very short, very curt, and very just like
Mm-hmm.
the other thing I think in my head, if I'm playing the devil's advocate, it's like, okay, well, Michael Schumacher came after David Coulthard when he ran
Mm-hmm.
into him in Spa.
Mm-hmm.
Max Verstappen came after Esteban Ocon
Mm-hmm.
once. Ayrton Senna punched Eddie Irvine in the face. Like
Yeah.
Nelson Piquet attacked somebody on track. These were mostly, I think, with the exception of Max, these were all circumstances where drivers were racing for championships or
Mm.
wins. So there's a tremendous amount of added pressure that comes with that. You
Mm.
know what I mean? If Lance Stroll was racing for a win, or if he was racing for his championship, I could understand if he was getting really frustrated and mad and he made
Okay.
a mistake with a lot of pressure.
Sure.
But the guy was out in Q3. And
Q1.
yes, it was the fourth time in a row. The
Yeah.
guy, the Aston Martin is just barely fighting for fourth. I don't
Mm-hmm.
even know where Lance is in the driver's standing, but I think it's not very high up.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, it's like, yes, there's a lot of pressure, but maybe he just can't cope with that pressure because
Yeah.
other drivers have been through more pressure or the same amount of pressure in
Mm-hmm.
similar circumstances and didn't behave like that.
Yeah.
And
I
so that's
mean,
my thought,
yeah. And no, I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's anything like inherently wrong with your thought process or anything there. Um, I what you said there at the end, I think is like you hit the nail on the head that he has probably reached his limit for what he can handle. Right. I think he's at a point where he has had such a bad season, right, and continued on from last season too, right? It's not like he was doing super hot last season. He's certainly better than this season, right? But I think he was expecting to see an increase in performance, right? An increase in results, and it's been the exact opposite. And there's also the pressure where he is costing the team money, right? He's costing the team first off money from like the crashes, right? But also costing the team money as far as a constructor championship is concerned, right? And also he looks like a scrub next to Alonso,
I'm sure his sponsors are not happy.
Yeah.
Like, because he's wearing their logos and he's like acting
Right.
like that in an interview. I'm
Sure.
they're not happy either.
Right. And so I think, yeah, I'm just trying to offer him some empathy here and just think that like, yeah, he's definitely got a lot going on, but I don't know. I don't know if I think what's tough is that his reaction in the interview, I understand, right? I get that. Like he is mad at himself. He's frustrated. He's like, I don't know what else I can do, right? But I think what you're talking about is that when you couple that with all of his previous behaviors in the garage is what makes him look kind of like a petulant baby, right? Like a little child. And I get that. I get that too. And it is definitely it's shocking for sure. Like,
Yeah.
and I can understand things in the heat of the moment. You just kind of like slap someone's hand away, especially when you have adrenaline running and all that kind of stuff. But like to shove someone up against the wall and I don't know. It's he needs to take a break. Whether that is the end of the season and then he reevaluates and he comes back, or maybe he just needs to get out of F1 for a little bit. Pull a Danny Rick.
Yeah. I mean,
because he's not a bad driver. It's not like he's awful. Like this guy has podiums, like,
well,
and he gets
good.
pretty decent results.
I mean, he's good enough to be an F1 driver,
Right.
So it's like he's made it there. And he had a lot of success in, Formula 3. However, this is like his 7th season in the sport,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, I think needing a break is exactly right.
Yeah.
If he was a rookie, Um, I mean, it wouldn't be great, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it'd be like, well, he's got to learn, like
Yeah.
he's just cracking under pressure. He's got to learn how to deal with the pressure and blah, blah,
Hmm.
blah. He's been in plenty of pressure situations. Like he's raced in this sport for 7 years. Like that,
Yeah.
you don't do that. And then, like it just, his excuses for me, there are the people like making excuses for him. It's just getting more and more difficult to justify.
Sure.
So, and honestly, and the thing that about it for me is that I like Aston Martin as a racing organization.
Oh yeah, I think they're
Like
dope.
their car looks great. The
Hmm.
team has been doing such a good job to like their reliability has been pretty decent, all things considering. Um, and their cars, it's fast, it's quick. Like when they were Racing Point, when they were Force India, they were a team that people cheered for. They were an underdog.
Hmm.
And so in certain ways they kind of were still, or they still are. But yeah, and that's why it's like for me, it's sort of disappointing because it's like, what would this season have been like for Aston Martin had Stroll
Yeah.
been able to race on the same level as everybody else, or as Fernando Alonso,
Or even at his previous levels, right? Like if he were racing, if he had maintained the same form from last season, like we wouldn't be having a conversation about whether or not Aston is going to finish second or third in the constructor championship. You know, we would be able to say for sure they're going to finish here because they're racking up points. But yeah, it's been Alonso's back has got to be.
Well, now here, think of this. His back. Alonso's got some major. He's gonna have to see a chiropractor after this season, if he's not already doing it. No, but just speculate this. So imagine if, at the end of Racing Point's era, that they didn't drop Perez, that they dropped Stroll, and that imagine if Perez was the one who was partnering Fernando Alonso this season.
Oh yeah, I mean it would be a different story.
It would be. I feel like it would be a much different story.
Yeah.
Than we're seeing now, and that's, I think, the main point.
Right.
I think is that's being made here.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if we're talking just strictly performance and whatnot, yeah, he is not. He's not. What did they say? Cutting the mustard? Is that?
Cutting the mustard. Right. Well, speaking of Perez, let's talk about him and Red Bull because
oh my god,
there's been a lot that's gone down.
Yeah.
His shot for the title washed away, and
it hasn't been the same since in Miami, right?
No.
Should we start off with the hot rumor?
Yeah, let's start it.
So
sizzle it up.
Yes. Saw this on Reddit the other day on our Formula One. Great place for content. Like the comments are great. The people, it's a great community. So apparently Perez is going to retire at the end of this season. That's a rumor. Don't know how this person got the information, but there's a whole thread on it. You can find it on the subreddit. But apparently Red Bull is planning on ending the contract with Perez early just because of the results, or I guess the lack of results, and bringing in Danny Rick for next season, which is something that we have talked about, right? We've said they're going to bring Danny Rick back.
Mm-hmm.
And that the whole reason they brought him in as the third driver, right, was to just like keep the eye of Sauron on him, right, and know that All Father's always watching you. I just mixed up Apex Legends and Lord of the Rings there, but yeah, yes. and apparently that's what's gonna happen. So we will know in a few weeks, because I think it's it's USGP. Then Mexico right after, or is it Interlagos after? I think it's US, Mexico, then Interlagos.
Well, we still have
Abu
Vegas
Dhabi
too somewhere.
Oh, Vegas, that's right. That's I think that's end of November, or no, beginning of November, something like that. Yeah.
Are we doing? Wait a minute. Are they not doing a USA doubleheader? Because that would make sense logistically.
Yeah,
you know
I think
what I mean.
So it's US, Mexican GP, then Brazil, and then hold on, I'm trying to just find. This is I hate these ads. It's like reject all or accept all. Like no, I don't like stop. All right, so yeah, we got.
Websites are obsessed with cookies now.
Yeah, U.S., Mexico, Brazil, then back to US for Vegas, and then Abu Dhabi. But honestly, leave it to Vegas to be the thing that is like, hey, come on back. We need you to.
Yeah.
So
Come on,
asinine. Why?
guys.
That makes no sense.
How easy would it be if they just did like US and Texas and then they just popped over to Vegas
That's
and
what I'm
just did a
saying.
thing, you know? Like then you do Mexico, then you do Brazil because it's just boom, 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 boom. There you go.
Unbelievable.
That'd be so much more efficient.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I have no idea where that rumor could come from because at least for what I heard, he was under contract, which means that Red
They
Bull
would break the contract.
they'd have to break the contract, pay him out for that contract, or he would have to forfeit it if he was the one that decided to retire. I mean, I don't know what the contingency is in that. What do you think about Danny Rick racing back in Red Bull after also like having 2 races in AlphaTauri and then breaking his wrist?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's a longer story than that, right? The fact that he left Red Bull, was it 2018 to go to Renault?
Yeah,
2018, right? And so it was 2017 or
2017?
I think it was 2018 actually.
Okay.
Because it was 2 years at Renault and then 2 years at McLaren, right? Yeah, the fact that he left Red Bull to become his own person and make his own decisions, to then come back to Red Bull. I mean, like no jokes or anything, but it's just interesting, you know, like that.
They must have a lot of faith in him.
They have a lot of faith in him, which honestly, I think for him that would be hugely satisfying, right?
Oh yeah,
to hear that both Christian and Helmut look at you and say, yeah, no, you've got what it takes. We want you to be here, right? But then what is the role? You know, like will he legitimately be fighting for the championship? Maybe, honestly, like I don't know. I don't really think if Danny comes back and he's at, you know, has really good form, I don't know. I think like this car is just gonna fit him like a glove, right? And I think he would have just as much of a shot, probably a better shot than Checo has had, right?
I mean, I think that I think what he's going to have over Checo is the support of the team.
Yes, big time.
I think that he has more of a history.
Yeah,
he's not really an outsider. He's just he's a golden retriever that's come home.
Yeah.
But the only thing that I worry about is that Danny has not really had much of a chance of a return yet.
At all, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, he got injured, so we didn't really even get a chance to see sort of how, you know, his performance in the AlphaTauri would have gone. I mean, considering that, you know, Liam Lawson's been doing a pretty good job in the car, despite, you know, it being as kind of horrible as it, you know, rumored to have been. I often think, I'm like, you know, what would Danny have been doing in those races? Would he have been out performing Yuki? Would he have been doing as good as Liam Lawson? Like, would people be like freaking out, be like, he's back, the king is back, you know, after just getting like a points finish? You know, like, but it's like Liam Lawson and people like just like, good job for him. It's really tough to say, and like part of me is wondering, like, I feel like there's 2 ways this can go. I mean, it's very well possible that he could jump into that Red Bull seat and just kind of basically put out the same kind of performance that Perez has, and just kind of stick in the middle. Or like I could imagine, I mean, my hope is that he would be doing a very good job and be a good teammate to Max, but at the same time, it's just like, you know,
he has more aspirations than that.
Here's what I would want to see. I would love to see Danny show up and then
just give it to Max,
start winning races.
Oh yeah.
And like, you know, I like, could you imagine a Nico Rosberg and
Lewis Hamilton yes,
rivalry battle for like that would I think that would make a Red Bull dominance era a lot more interesting than just having Max just, you know, taking the plunge the entire time.
Right.
I also did see that somebody suggested that a perfect or an ideal teammate to Max would actually be Valtteri Bottas.
You think so?
I think as far as like being somebody who can capitalize on having a quick car, and is capable of winning races, you know, and is capable of taking team orders and being a team player, in a way that like is not to say that Perez was combative. I think like so much of like Perez's like issues with the team kind of stemmed from outside sources.
Yeah.
So like
who doesn't work officially for
yeah.
Red Bull Racing, so that's why we didn't put a statement out.
Yeah.
Like, guys, I get that, but sure, you need to show.
I don't know. I you know, part of me, you know, all I want is just the best for the driver's perspective.
Yeah.
You know, if Perez needs to take a step away from F1, he should be able to do it. If Lance needs to take a step away from it, he should be able to do it. If Max wants to step away from it and just do NASCAR trucks, that's let him do it. You know what I mean?
Also, please do that because it'd be great to see you doing that, man.
It would be awesome. I would watch
cool.
NASCAR trucks to watch Max Verstappen. I'd be a super Max fan if that was the case. Just because I just love these like, you know, NASCAR truck drivers like, what the hell? And it's just like Max flying past. Like, oh, see you guys. I do this on auto racing all the time. All right, see you. The truck was going really good. You know, it was, you know, it was moving, shifting fast, and you know, we were doing pretty good, and I'm pretty happy with the truck.
Can I offer you a stroopwafel?
He's just whipping him out the window at the drivers. There's no rules.
So, quick question: did you know that Checo was 33? I always looked at him and thought he was like 38.
No, I knew he wasn't that old.
Not 38, but like maybe like 35, 36.
Yeah, I
didn't
thought
know he was
maybe
33.
like 34, 35. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm not surprised. I mean, I guess I'm not too surprised by that. It's weird to think of these drivers being like around our age.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
They just feel so much older. Like Lando Norris, it's so weird to think that he's like 24, 23. Like it's like, what? Isn't this guy like in his 30s at this point? No.
Yeah.
But it's also weird to think that Fernando Alonso is 41 because that guy always still
42.
looks like he's 35. Oh, for 42. Excuse me.
Yeah.
He looks like he's 35 still. So
yeah.
He probably still is physically 35. I don't. I mean, I wish the best for Perez no matter what. But I think that it's another one of those issues with like kind of like Mick Schumacher and Haas where they just didn't give him the backing that he really deserved, even though they said they did.
Yeah.
You know.
Here's the thing too. I feel bad because I don't know. He was always going to be an outsider in that environment, right?
Yeah.
Because he didn't come through their driver academy, right? And I don't know, it just wouldn't breed an environment where he can be fully accepted. And I feel like you would always kind of feel like that, even being the driver yourself, being there, like, look, I know I'm coming in from outside, right? And I know you've got all these guys in the wings who are waiting who can potentially take the seat. And I think he was probably very clearly aware of that before stepping into that environment, stepping into that seat, knowing that, yeah, my performance is always going to be judged and critiqued, and I know I'll probably only have like contracts that'll last maybe 2, maybe 3 years max, right? Versus Max getting like his 4 or 5 year contracts because they have faith in him, right? He came through their system. So, you know, that is a whole dimension of mental hurdles that you have to navigate. And I'm sure that's going to wreak some kind of havoc too.
Yeah. Well,
best of luck to him.
Speaking of, best of luck to him. But also, speaking of wreaking havoc, let's talk about Andretti and their potential bid to show up. So, I'm sure you saw that the news that the the FIA has approved them as far as being capable of being an F1 team and being able to conduct the business, which I'm not surprised by.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen their operation in IndyCar, and they're also in Formula E, which is an FIA sanctioned race. So they know the right people, they have the right experience, they have the right know-how. And I think from a marketing perspective, I think it is a really, really good idea. Considering just the popularity, the sort of the romanticized nature of having Andretti back in F1, but also bringing in Cadillac, which is fascinating. And I kind of love it because nobody ever thinks of Cadillac being a high performance brand, but like they definitely have some high performance potential cars out there now. what do you make of all this? As particularly with the driver, the teams, other teams kind of pushing back on it.
Well, I think the way I've always felt is that Formula One, I think, would benefit from more teams and more drivers on the grid and fewer races on the calendar. And it's really awful because we've been trending in the opposite direction where you're getting teams. I mean, we've been at 10 teams since 2016, 2017, right? There was an 11th team. I forget the name of the team, but
the last trailers that I remember being were
Marussia, right?
And HRT, or not HRT, was it HRT? Yeah, it's the one they had Nareen Karthikeyanan as their driver. But they were like the 20, they were like the straggler teams that just ended up disappearing,
like folding up. Yeah. And I know part of it is that the FIA doesn't want to have teams just come in and then just disappear, right? Like that kind of damages the brand in a certain way, because you want to have teams that are solvent, right? You don't want to just have teams that are just like, oh yeah, we're here, and we're a Bitcoin enterprise, and then just poof, they're gone the next season, right?
Yep.
I get that. But on the same side, you want to make sure that you can bring in teams that are solvent, that would actually add a lot of, I think, credibility to your brand and marketing, and it helps expand the brand, right? Like by tapping into, or by bringing Andretti Cadillac on board, you're tapping into, I think, a portion of the American racing, audience, right? That doesn't necessarily pay attention to F1. Maybe just they pay attention to F1, maybe just adjacently, right? They're just like, oh yeah, I see the updates, but now you have people who might actually want to attend because, oh hey, we have another American team on the grid, right? That would actually be even more American than Haas, right? Because and that's a whole nother discussion. But I'm really happy to hear that from the FIA, and Mohammed Ben, his last name's pronounced I think Salman. Salman. Yeah. He has the same view that he wants to see fewer races but more teams on the grid, and I would like to see a decrease in the number of races just because there's so many, right? I feel like if there's too much racing going on, I feel like you I think in your mind you can make the trade of, oh well, okay, maybe I can miss this or I miss that because I can catch this next one, right? Whereas I want to be fully engaged all the time. And not just that, but the races they're adding to the calendar are all street races, street circuits, right? And it's like, okay, I get it, like a street circuit you can easily put together quickly, but let's do like purpose built circuits, right? Or go to places that are actually interesting. Don't go to Vegas, right? Like go to Long Beach. Long Beach is there, right?
Yeah.
And it would be great to see F1 back in Long Beach. But
it would. They could probably do it. They could probably make that circuit work.
Yeah. I just think overall, I'm glad to see that FIA is proceeding in the right direction with Andretti. I think Andretti Cadillac would bring a lot of really good benefits, both tangible and intangible, to just Formula One in general. And now's the time to do it. I understand the concern of the teams saying like, oh, well, if they join, then, we're going to, lose a piece of the pie that we have, traditionally been receiving. To which my response is, how about we stop paying Ferrari a legacy fee and dice that up for a few years and give it to everyone to make up for it. And then Ferrari can get your money back in a few years, and we'll start those payments back up.
Yeah. Well, I saw the race podcast and like news organization had a great they had a great response to this, where they said, this sport has been touting about how much the American audience has expanded the viewership of the sport.
Yep.
And like how much, there's 3 races in America now, and the American audience is so important. And like that they have all these record sales and all these record ticket, and then they're going to complain about there not being enough money in the pot.
That's what I'm saying.
It's just like, come on, you guys.
Use your heads.
You can't, you can't take one and have the other. You can't have your cake and eat it too, which, by the way, I hate that phrase, because what's the point of having cake if you don't eat it?
Yeah.
But anyway, points made.
Oh, you don't just look at your cake? That's what
Right.
I
No,
do.
yeah. I mean, you just stare at your cake. I eat it. I just put my hand in there. Um, but yeah, no, it's stupid. That it doesn't make any sense. There's
Yeah,
no, um,
I think it's posturing.
it's like, yeah. I mean, well, it's like claiming somebody is, not mentally capable of, being a leader and then also being a criminal mastermind. It's like you can't. It's hard to have one or the other. You know
I
what I
know
mean?
exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah. So it's like one cannot live in the brain without the other. It's the same sort of thing. It's like either you guys have to admit that you're having a bunch of success and this would be a smart move for the sport, or you have to admit that the money's not being spent
Yeah.
well enough and efficiently enough, and therefore, you know, but yeah, I mean, this is what the teams do. They
Hmm.
complain about regulation changes. They
Yeah.
complain when somebody's cheating, and then they turn around and cheat the same way.
Hmm.
This is normal. I'm not surprised by this.
Yeah.
What I would be surprised by is if the FIA, or not the FIA, if Liberty Media and like the F1 president was basically just like, yeah, you're probably right. Let's say no because we just don't want to
Yeah.
complicate. It's like,
No.
no, do this. Like, people are stoked already. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Dude, I would get so
I'm
much
gonna hell
Andretti
yeah.
Cadillac swag.
Oh, I would 100%, especially if they got some really interesting drivers in there. Like if they
Hmm.
got like, if they took a bold move and tried to stick Jamie in one of them, that would be amazing.
Mm.
Or if they maybe pulled like Ericsson back in, or if they pulled,
Hmm.
I don't think they're going to pull Grosjean because Grosjean there's some breach of
Man,
contract
that
problems with them.
whole
So
that whole thing is messy.
yeah,
Mm.
poor Grosjean, man. But anyway, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But I
Yeah.
think that they are perfectly capable. I think they're poised to enter in, and I think that there's potential that they will enter with a level of know-how and professionalism that I don't
Yeah.
think the other teams are going to anticipate or expect.
Yeah. I agree.
Especially, could you imagine they show up and they're already a midfield team beating Haas every time? Like, they would just be
Well,
like, "Oh my God, what are you guys looking? What are you doing?"
that's what it was like when Haas first came in, right? Their debut season, they came in and I think they finished fifth,
Yeah, they
right?
were pretty high. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do remember that being a good jump in season. But it is just hilarious how Haas keeps getting like they get a sponsorship that's like just a huckster, with Rich Energy, and then they immediately after that they get in bed with like a Russian oligarch, and it's just like,
Man.
what are you guys doing? Like, I would rather see you guys get involved with like a cryptocurrency or like an AI, thing than like
Something of credibility.
yes, yes, something that's a little more, a little more cleaner, as if we're going to be honest,
Yeah.
and that the Andretti Cadillac car is going to be like red, white, and blue.
Oh yeah.
Maybe a
Yeah.
dash of gray in there, or like
Yeah.
a royal blue. It's going to
Yeah.
look like
It'll look
stars and
nice.
bars, baby.
That's why I
Um,
kind of feel like Haas has always kind of missed I don't know. I feel like they always kind of missed the boat with delivery, right? Like
they have the flag on the car, but
yeah.
it's just gray. It's
Yeah, like you're
you
an
hardly even know
American
it's there.
team. Like
Mhm.
like let people know, right? Like
Yeah, throw
but
McDonald's on the side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, but for real, get some American sponsorships. Come on, like have some McDonald's, have like some Burger King. I don't know, like get what's a
And while
like
you're
Texaco.
while you're
you
at
know?
it, just put a nice big sticker on the side of the dude from Wall-E who was just in that like hover chair.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
American excellence. we just hovercraft everywhere.
Hostess cakes. Like
Yep.
just do something. It
Yeah.
would make sense to me especially if you're gonna get a lot of Americans watching your sport. You might as well have an American.
That's true.
McDonald's is worldwide. They got them
Yeah.
everywhere.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, dude, there's things they could do. I mean, I don't know. Well, that's the thing. It's just like, I guess, there's terrible companies everywhere. So,
Sure.
but
sure.
anyway, yeah, I'm really excited. I hope it goes forward.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this whole like hurry up and wait kind of thing.
Mhm.
I think the sooner the better as far as getting them involved. I think even if they kind of bumble and stumble through a season, I think like they're an organization that's already proven that like they can go through difficult times and they can go through adversity and make it happen. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. Absolutely. I think just in general though, one of the things I'm really excited about. Sorry guys on the video. Like I'm shaking. It's fine. Whatever.
It's gonna happen. We need to get you a
20
tripod, man.
I know.
Something that's got a clip that like clips to your desk. Like, there's got to be something.
My whole setup is just jank right now.
Need to upgrade.
But I was gonna say, just in general, 2026, I'm really looking forward to though. Just because that's when I think Ford is coming in with Red Bull, right?
Yep. Audi's coming in.
And Audi's coming, exactly, yeah. So, and technical regulation changes too, right? So that's gonna spice things up.
And I think Alfa Romeo, if I'm not mistaken, is supposed to be partnering with Haas. So like it's gonna be the Haas Alfa Romeo team. Yeah. So that'll be cool. It'll be a cool season to witness. I'm down.
Yeah. Not to say there's going to be good racing between now and then, but
right.
I think you can guess probably continued Red Bull excellence. Or I don't know, if we get Danny, Rick, and Max next year, who are just fighting each other so much, maybe we get a repeat of 2007 where someone comes in and just nips the title.
Boom. Yeah. Well, here's a question for you. If it ends up being another Max dominated season next year that basically mimics this season, what do you think's going to happen? Do you think the media is going to just, shit the bed? Do you think everybody's just going to be like, I'm done with this, like we're over it, and they're just going to do you think like the FIA is going to try and pull some move to try and stop them immediately, or say if your car is red and yellow and blue and it has to have a 30% reduction in speed.
We need to put literal bags of sand in the cockpit. I mean, why would they? They're still going to be making money off ticket sales and merchandise sales, right? And licensing agreements. They didn't do anything when Mercedes and Lewis were dominating, right? So
they did some stuff.
They did some things, right? Yeah, there were technical adjustments, and I'm sure there will be teams complaining about technical
people forget about the DAS system.
Yes. Oh my god, it was so cool.
Yeah, there are lots of things that they did to slow down the Mercedes that people forget about. It's definitely a thing that's happened.
Yeah.
So it's not new to Red Bull and by any means. So
yeah. I'm just gonna move my camera here. Boom.
There you go. The only real big piece of news that I noticed that I think we might want to mention before we kind of move on or wrap it up here is Bernie Ecclestone pleading guilty to fraud. 400 million euros that apparently he had in a trust in Singapore that was undeclared. Now,
oh my god, that's so much money. And when you admit guilty to fraud, that means it was bad.
So here's something I've noticed, and this is my conspiracy. Where did that money come from? It was in a trust in Singapore. What happened in Singapore that involved Bernie Ecclestone?
No.
Right?
Wait, but here's the problem. Though. There's the McLaren
Renault
blow
give
up.
Him money?
There's a Renault blow up. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. There's Spygate, and there was also the Renault thing. Because remember, okay, so I'm gonna make a plug for this podcast. BBC has an excellent podcast series. Said that backwards. That focuses on weird sports mysteries and things that have happened. Right. So I just listened to a 9-episode series on Spygate. Right. From the 2007 series. If you're not familiar with it. 2007 season, sorry. If you're not familiar with it, look it up. It's a whole thing. It involves McLaren and the siphoning of data from Ferrari to McLaren. So, fascinating story. One of the really interesting tidbits about what happened during that season was that McLaren, right, got data from Ferrari through one of their employees, right? Whether or not they were directed to do so, that's a whole discussion, but it looks like it was just kind of an employee who was just interested in getting data from Ferrari and might have been disgruntled or something, right? So McLaren gets all this information, technical data on Ferrari's car, and the punishment they get is $100 million fine from the FIA. Boom, they get whacked, right? That can bankrupt or destroy time. Also, all of their...
They're also excluded from the championship,
yes,
too.
The Constructors' Championship. All their points were vacated. Done. Gone. You cannot compete in this year's Constructors' Championship, which is so damaging because they would have won, right? That comes with money. Renault, they also stole data from who? McLaren. That same season. There was no fine, no punishment. And I think that was when Flavio Briatore was the team principal at the time, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah.
So Flavio is a very, very interesting character, by the way. He managed Fernando Alonso. He was his manager. But I think after Fernando left, it was a weird thing where Flavio's management company was still managing Fernando, but Flavio was not involved at all. But at the same time, he was still team principal over at Renault. Anyways, the weird thing though about all this is just that Renault didn't get any kind of punishment. So, and I think like the whole thing went down at Singapore, right, where they crashed into the wall.
Well, that was Spygate. Spygate was like separate from Crashgate.
Crashgate. Yeah. Speaking specifically about Crashgate. Yeah.
Yeah. Crashgate happened at Singapore. In
2007.
No, it was 2008.
Was it 2008? Okay.
Because Fernando was back with Renault.
And
they manufactured the win for him, basically.
Yeah. So, all of this just to say that, there might be some funny business going on with Renault that actually goes back further than Crashgate. That was kind of the whole reason for the diatribe there. But,
it just feels like a little too much like a coincidence, particularly because of this whole thing with like Felipe Massa and like his his lawsuit and all of this. It's just like it just seems very weird that this money that he had in a trust was in Singapore of all places, and he was the guy that apparently knew that they had cheated and didn't say anything.
Yeah. So here's what's going to happen. If it looks like a
duck, if it's shaped like a duck, sometimes it's a duck.
Sometimes. Alternative facts will tell you that it's a fox.
Right.
But no, it's interesting. Because what's going to happen now is that the legal actions or the legal implications from this for Felipe Massa's lawsuit, I think the door kind of opens up a bit more now.
Maybe. I mean, I'm sure they're looking at it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're curious themselves, particularly if he admitted that it was fraudulent. Because it's like, well, they're going to have to chase down where this money came from.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to just be like, oh, well, you had this much money and you didn't claim it. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
No, they're going to try and figure it out.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, dude.
It is
400 million. That's euros. 400 million euros. You said.
Yep.
Ooh.
There's a lot of money. Yeah. But it's just like the ghosts of F1 past.
Yeah.
Showing up right in time for spoopy season. So, so next this coming weekend, right, is the Texas Grand Prix, right? US Grand Prix.
Yes.
As you've said before, and we've mentioned on this channel, it was the origin of our whole podcast and sort of beginnings of that. It was also the start of our good friendship with Tiernan and Shinali from Knockoff McLaren, as well as Elizabeth Blackstock and Alanis King, who I'm very glad to see are both out there doing their thing.
Thriving.
Working for Cars and Bids now. Congrats to her.
Yes.
It's fun to sort of have friends and acquaintances in this industry and be able to see them progress and kind of be able to cheer them on along the way. It's pretty wonderful.
Absolutely. It's been a fun journey so far. We've got some fun things planned for you guys too.
We do. I mean, this is our 40th episode, so we should probably do something special for the 50th. Who knows what the 100th one's going to be?
Yeah.
Oh.
This just reminded me, the USGP.
Yes.
This will be the season finale for F1 Academy. So,
yes,
please stay tuned for that this weekend. It's going to be
Are they going to televise it on F1? I hope they do.
I think it'll be. I don't know if it'll be televised. You know what? Actually, no, I take that back. I think it will be on F1.
If it is, I'm going to be stoked. I'm watching the hell out of that.
Like, make it accessible. That's all we're asking for, people.
Yeah, just put it on the F1 app, damn it.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm also really excited next year that they're going to be the support series. So, like,
yes.
a goal is 100% to go to a race next year. Might try and see if I can make Texas happen. Because that would be a fun race. If Montreal would be possible, it's like there's a couple I'm thinking of that could be good, but I would definitely have to plan ahead. It's tough. It's like there's so many different like expenses that come into play and things of that nature. But like,
you don't want to go to Baku?
No, I don't want to go to Baku.
What a fun race!
Definitely not doing no.
To meet the Charles Leclerc corner. I feel so bad for him every time, dude.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's definitely different races that would be interesting to see. I mean, Silverstone always seems like it'd be a good time. Obviously, like Monaco would be like the picturesque, sort of ideal. But yeah, no, I think Montreal, I think, is an obtainable goal. But I might just kind of, just to kind of keep my beak wet, maybe just Texas would be easy enough to obtain, because I don't have to worry about parking that much, because there's plenty of parking facilities around.
And,
it's a fairly accessible track. It's it's in Texas. It's not halfway across the world. So
there's good barbecue.
Good barbecue. Yeah. Oh, that was so good. It sucks when we got barbecue. We had to wait so long to get it, and then I just felt like I scarfed it down before
that
bed.
You couldn't savor it. Yeah.
Savor it. Yeah. And also, by the time I got there, they were out of cornbread, and I was like, nah. Like, we're gonna have to, if we end up going to Texas again, and we get barbecue, we're just gonna have to try and get there earlier or something, or plan for it ahead of time.
Yeah. What was the name of the place? It was like something Blacks, Terry Blacks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, really good. There was a huge line, but it was good stuff.
Everyone there was from the race too, or everyone there was like an F1 fan. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Saw a lot of McLaren and Ferrari gear.
Yeah. No, I think it would be worth seeing, because we could see some F1 Academy action on track.
Absolutely.
Especially if Andretti shows up for next year, which is not it's pretty close, but they were talking about at least ready. 25 maybe. So
24 might be cutting it too close.
Yeah. But crazier things have happened. So
yeah.
All right. Well, do you want to do our outro there, buddy?
Yeah. Why not? It's been a minute.
You might as well do it. Yeah.
All right. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to F1 Air Off. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you want to hit us up, yeesh, man, rusty. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and X Twitter, Threads, whatever else. All at F1 Air Off. Email us at f1 or foffpodcast@gmail.com or gmail. Give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast, and be sure to share with your family and friends, your enemies, that dude on the bus who side-eyes you. Let them know what's up. Let them know Ferrari is not going to win it this year again, and Ferrari will not win it until the next blood moon. I've been playing a lot of Zelda, so it is what it is,
Yes, I agree. Thanks, everybody. Peace.
We out.